Hi YouTube, my name is Heather and I love anti-MLM content here on YouTube. Today I'm really excited for us to watch a video from famous MLM coach Ray Higdon, who's going to tell us how to handle our spouse who does not support our business. Before I begin, I wanted to do a quick story. A little while ago, I did a video on Ray Higdon that I did not end up posting on my little channel. So far, I really value keeping all the conversations as educational and informational as possible. And with this Ray Higdon video, I did not end up putting up. There were snippets here and there that provided good education and good commentary. And there are other parts where I just got way too snarky. I wasn't talking about what Ray Higdon was saying, but I was talking about who I think he is as a person. And the goal of what I was saying was not to educate. It was just me letting my emotions and my thoughts get the best of me. And I wasn't thinking through what I was saying before saying it. And I want to keep covering Ray Higdon because he's such a big figure in the MLM industry. So I'm going to make a good effort to think through things before I say them and make sure I'm talking just about what Ray Higdon is saying and his behavior, and keep my tone and my content as educational and informational as possible. Because while that other video had snippets of good parts in it, the overall tone of that video would not have fit with all the other videos that I've put up on my little channel so far. So I'm really excited to watch this video, and please let me know what you think about this topic down below.
Today we're going to discuss what if your spouse doesn't support your business. So first, we're going to talk about the number one thing to do if your spouse doesn't support your business. Next, I'm going to give you the very interesting and powerful relation between masculine and feminine energy. And lastly, I'm going to give you a mindset hack that is going to completely transform your world. So it can be frustrating, right? That, you're with someone, you have this dream, and they just don't support what it is that you're doing. I remember when I was in real estate and the real estate market changed, I'm like in the process of losing everything. And at the time I had been through a divorce and I was re-engaged. I was engaged to somebody. And so I went on the road. I went on the road as a speaker. So 22 days a month, Vegas, Chicago, Phoenix, Miami, LA. I was doing these 90-minute presentations to sell a $7,000 system to a cold audience. A lot of intense stress, all performance-based. I'm not paid a dime if I don't sell. And it was my first time ever doing that sort of thing. You had to be on your game. So I would fly into this city, and lo and behold, almost every single time I would get a nasty text from my fiance that was just upset that I was out of town, that was upset that I wasn't there with her, and I was leaving her, leaving her by herself so much. And I'm just trying to survive, because at that point I'm going into foreclosure and I'm just trying to make things happen. So I know what it's like to have someone that doesn't support your goals. And
I should let him finish his thought. Sorry.
I truly, truly want to help you with that. But I'm going to tell you.
Okay, I let him finish his thought. So Ray, I think what you were saying, like, that sounds like a crazy schedule, and you were traveling 22 days out of the year out of the month, sorry, and you were already experiencing stress because I don't remember his full story. He went into foreclosure in his real estate business or something, and he really had to make this business work, like traveling around and doing sales presentations. I think in this case, like, if your spouse is saying, "I miss you, I hate that you're away so much," in that case, it's not necessarily a nasty text. It's, "I miss you. I want to spend more time with you." And that doesn't mean that your spouse is not supportive of your goals. In that case, if I was racing around the city, the country so much, and my spouse, I probably would do this even if my spouse didn't say they missed me. But if my spouse said that, I would make sure that I call them at the same time every day. Maybe we video chat every single day. We text a lot. Like, we're in constant communication throughout the day, because if someone is your fiance and you're gone pretty much every day out of the entire month, I think it's fair and reasonable for them to miss you and to be upset that you're going to marry them soon and you don't get to see them. And so I don't think that's a spouse not supporting your goals. I think that's your spouse being sad that you're not there and missing you. I know that could apply in the MLM context, but let's just let him go on to his next point.
this video will challenge you a little bit, because the very first thing that you need to do regarding a non-supportive spouse is stop requiring them to. Stop requiring them to support you. Stop having that as a, I must have this if I am to succeed. You need to go succeed. You need to go make it happen. And I've seen a lot.
So he's saying the first thing to do when you have an unsupportive spouse is to stop requiring their support for your success. And I think in the context of MLM, that's not very good advice. I think the first thing you need to do if your spouse is worrying about you at all is to ask them questions. Say if I was in an MLM, say my spouse was in an MLM, and I said, hey, I'm worried that you're in an MLM. They would go back and say, why are you worried? And then I would share research and FTC statistics, maybe Deanna Mims' channel, and I would just try to provide them with information that could help them make an well-informed, well-thought-out decision, right? Because if your spouse is worried about you, there's probably a good reason for it. And I'm thinking of a spouse who has your best interest at heart, who's a supportive, loving partner, not someone who's maybe like toxic, manipulative, and is just trying to find faults in what you're passionate about. I think if my spouse came to me and said, I'm worried that you're in an MLM, that would be a red flag for me, because I value my spouse's opinion. I value what they think I should be doing with my life, because I know that they have my best interest at heart. What do you think about that?
A lot of this in the network marketing space. We coach and train a lot of network marketers, and over and over and over, I've seen the non-supportive spouse play a role. But here's what I've never seen, not one time. I have never seen someone that had a non-supportive spouse go out and crush it, and all of a sudden that non-supportive spouse not become a supportive spouse. And so I'll give you an example. So we would do all these vacation incentives when I was building a network marketing team, and I was the number one incomer of that company. And so I would see the non-supportive spouse come on these cruises. So we would run these 3-day cruise, 5-day cruise, 7-day cruises. And so the non-supportive spouse would come in, and day one they're like, oh, I don't do this. She does it. No. And then day 2, they're kind of loosened up. And day 3, they're like, you better win the next one. Like, that's how it works. Stop requiring them to support your goals. They're your goals. They're your dreams. Go make it happen and pay off his truck. Go make it happen and show that you have what it takes to make it happen, whether they support you or not.
I keep picking bad times to pause. Sorry. So he just said they're your goals. You go out and make them happen. Right. I do disagree with that, because if you're married, engaged, living with someone, you have a life partnership, right? And if you're making a decision that impacts both of your finances, if you have like a joint account or you just have separate accounts and you're paying for bills like right down the middle, if it's going to affect your life partner, your husband, your fiance, whatever, they should be involved in that decision. And I think like their opinion should have an influence, in my opinion. The example he provided about a spouse being on a cruise and then like started to not be supportive, and then as they were having fun, they were more into the MLM aspect of the cruise. I think that is a way of delegitimizing very serious and legitimate concerns that spouses may have. It could be that their spouse is going into greater debt and they want them to be out of the MLM because of the financial aspect, or there could be other parts too, right? There could be oh, you wanted to join this business so you could be at home with their kids and be a really present mom, but you've been telling me that you're just working constantly and you don't even get to spend time with them anymore, and that upsets you. Very, very valid. Or it could be, I've noticed that you're not sleeping much. You're going to bed at midnight, then waking up at 5 a.m. to keep working your business. And you seem really tired and irritable because you're not sleeping. I'm worried about you. That's also extremely valid. It could be you and I don't spend quality time together anymore, because even when we're out on a date, you are on your phone working. Again, very valid. Their big concern could be you don't get to see your friends anymore because you're always working on your business. And that worries me. Again, that's very, very, very valid. So there are a lot of really legitimate, significant reasons that a spouse could be worried about you being in an MLM that don't have anything to do with money. Have you seen the LuLaRich documentary on Amazon Prime when Roberta Blevins said she told the CEO, "Oh, my husband is just not on board. He's not on board." And then the CEO says, "Oh, well, just bring in the money, show him the money, and then he'll support you." And then she goes, "Well, the money's already coming in." And then she tells him, "Oh, well, you need to get," the CEO, tells Roberta, "You need to get a new husband because he's not supporting your LuLaRoe business." It's not always just about the money. It could be also that they're aware that the MLM business structure is set up for the vast majority of people at the bottom of the pyramid to lose money, and they go into even greater debt. So at maximum, 20% of people at the top can make money. All of those are very, very valid reasons that don't really have anything to do with financial gain for the family. Does that make sense? Let me know down below if you can think of other reasons why a spouse may be worried about you being in an MLM that's not about being a millionaire or not.
That's the very first thing you need to get. Now, this is especially for the guys, okay? This is especially for the guys, or the masculine energy, if we want to say that. So a lot of times I'll have someone come to me and say, my wife just doesn't support me. She's constantly telling me that, it's never going to work out. I need to get a real job, or, a lot of times it's of that kind of nature. Here's what you need to understand. Feminine energy cannot trust masculine energy that's not on purpose. Okay? So if the masculine energy in the relationship doesn't have a purpose that they're going after, then the feminine energy cannot trust that person. There's an amazing book out there called...
I don't understand. So a woman can't trust their husband if he doesn't have a purpose? What do you mean, Ray? I hope you explain it, because I'm not getting the point. Do you get the point? If you do, tell me below.
It's an interesting title, but it's called The Way of the Superior Man. It's David Dido, I think is the author's name, but look it up. He talks about how if the masculine energy is going to go off to war, and because his father did, his grandfather did, he's being called to war, and the wife says, "No, don't go, don't leave us. Stay home. We love you. No, we don't want anything to happen to you." Then the person decides not to go to war. The feminine energy can no longer trust that. Can't trust it. Not on purpose. Another thing.
Why not, Ray? I think that is someone sacrificing what they want to do for the good of the family, in my opinion, right? Like, if I wanted to run off to England for a year for a new job, and say I had kids at home, and my spouse was like, "Hey, I really don't want to move our kids out to England for a year and then have to move them back because it's a big, it will uproot their lives, and I don't want to do that." And then I'm like, "Okay, no problem. You're right. That's not a bad thing. That's like sacrificing your needs for the good of the family." What do you think his point is here? I don't really get it.
Thing that's said in that book is that a good woman will challenge their man. And
I hate that saying, a good woman. I feel like that is like what you would call a woman who this the stereotypical 1950s who cleans the house in an apron and sends the kids off to school and everything, what you would consider a 1950s housewife. I don't really understand what he's talking about here. If a man backs down from what he wants, his wife will not trust him because his masculine energy is not going towards a target, I think.
Because if you can't face their challenges, how are you going to face the world? So it's like a good mom. A good mom will raise kids that can function in the world. They won't do everything for them. They shouldn't, and they know they shouldn't, right? It's like if you...
Don't you mean a good parent? Why is being a good parent gendered, Ray? It's not just it's not women's job to take care of the husband. It's not just a mother's job to make sure that the children can function properly in society. That's also just as equally the responsibility of the father. So that's like a really traditional view of gender roles within the household that isn't as relevant now, because there's lots of fathers who stay home with their kids and who clean the house every week and cook dinner and do laundry. Like, it's extremely normalized in 2022 for traditional gender roles to be blurred. What do you think?
If the mom cracks the shell of the baby chicken and the baby chicken doesn't, its neck isn't strong enough, it'll die in a couple days. Doesn't develop the neck muscles. It develops the neck muscles by breaking the shell. And so if you have a non-supportive feminine energy, spouse, wife, etc., then it's very likely that they're actually a great woman. And they're challenging you to see if you can face their challenges. And they're not challenging you to belittle you. They're not challenging you to, say they don't, love you. They're actually challenging you because they do love you. And they want to see that if you can get past that, then you have a chance at competing in the world, at going and pursuing your actual purpose. And so if you're a guy on here, if you're the masculine energy in the relationship, then maybe check that premise. Check that premise of, could it be that they're not actually belittling me, but they're actually challenging me, and that I need to increase my masculine energy of direction. I need to increase my masculine energy of purpose and direction, because that's very likely the case.
So there's a couple of things I wanted to say there. First, he's saying if a wife is challenging a husband that's in an MLM, it's because she wants to test him to see if he can handle her challenges, so he can go off and succeed in the MLM, or like whatever he said. I don't think a wife is challenging a husband just to help him practice reacting to the negative opinions of MLMs in society. I think it's more, hey, sweetie, I'm worried about you. I did some research on the structure of multi-level marketing companies, and it worries me. Hey, did you know that a lot of people call MLMs a scam? Did you know that they're a pyramid scheme? And this is why ABCD. I'm really worried because of ABCD. Let's sit down and talk about the information that I have available, and let me help you answer your questions, and maybe I can connect you to someone who knows more about this business structure than I do. I'm here for you. I'm going to listen to your concerns, and we can work through this together. Like, they're not challenging you just for the sake of challenging you. They could be challenging you because, yes, they care about you. They're not belittling you, but they're worried for your own well-being, which is really the job of a supportive and loving partner. Number two, he's talking about relationships in the aspect of like feminine energy and masculine energy. He's not saying a man and woman necessarily, but why is his vision of a family, it seems to be very heteronormative. Why can't he sit there and talk about how to handle your spouse, like in same-sex relationships, and one of your spouses isn't supporting you in your MLM? Why is his example of a man and a woman? Why not a woman and a woman, a man and a man? And that's just interesting to me. I wasn't thinking of that while I was listening to this earlier today. And then I just thought, his examples are very traditional in relation to gender norms in the family. And they're also very heteronormative. What do you think about that?
Before we get to my last point, which is really going to help you out, make sure you subscribe to this channel if you are on your purpose, if you're on your path to becoming the best version of yourself. We cover a lot of things, such as overcoming fears, such as being the best version of yourself, such as visualization and setting and crushing your goals. And so feel free to subscribe. All right, so here's a mindset hack that will just transform your world. It's just going to change it. And so first, I want to give you an example. Over a year ago, and this is a good topic for this title. Over a year ago, I bought ballroom dance lessons for my wife and I. Just want to spend more time with her. Didn't know where it would go or anything like that. It's something I've never been a dancer my whole life. I've been the guy leaning against the wall, and you don't see me out there on the dance floor. That's
a nice thing to do for your spouse, like something that you don't really know how to do, that you're not necessarily comfortable with, but you're doing it just because you know that they would like it and it'd be a cool experience for you to share together. I like that idea. I think that's nice. I might want to do that at some point. I recently broke my foot stepping off a curb, so I'm not going to be able to dance for a while, but thank you, Ray. That's a sweet idea to do. Like, that's a sweet idea for something to do with your partner.
It's really got me out of my comfort zone, and you'll see why here shortly. So we start dancing, and I start going. I want to get good at it. If I'm going to do it, I want to, that's just the way I roll. I don't want to, mildly participate in something. If I'm going to do something, I want to do it well. And
not everyone's like that. I think if I were to do a dance lesson, I would just be like, just try to keep up. Don't fall over, because I can't dance at all. I have no rhythm. I don't know how to dance. So I don't think I would have that kind of mindset going into it. If I were to do like a hockey league or something that I can actually do, I would want to be good at it though.
And so I start going to 2 lessons a week. And sometimes it's with my wife, sometimes it's just with the instructor, just for me to work on mine. She was already naturally gifted, like she is in literally everything, so it was awesome. And me, I'm like Frankenstein out there, I'm like, and just stomping around. And they're like, Ray, do you hear the beat? Like, do you hear doon, 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 doon? And I'm like, fire. And, they're like, do your hips actually move? Were you in an accident, Ray? Like, I'm not joking here. So
if they actually said, were you in an accident? Like, that's not nice. Like, what if he was in an accident? That's why he like doesn't have lots of like a big range of motion in his hips. Like, that's not how to be a good teacher, in my opinion.
4 months in, 2 lessons a week. Okay. You would think, oh, he's probably pretty good by now. No, there was a guy that was coming in after me, and he was lacing up his shoes and watching me, and he was new too. And when I finished, he came up to me and he said, wow, I am so glad I came in early. Man, you just made me feel so much better about myself. I'm like, wow, thanks. Thanks for that, buddy. Thanks. Appreciate it. Didn't have to say that, But I went home that day and I said, here I know all this stuff, and I preach all this stuff about mindset, about, having an unstoppable mindset, about, creating in your mind what it is that you want, but I wasn't using it. I was just sitting there saying, well, I'm not very good at dancing. And that's just how I showed up. So that night I decided to change it. So I go home, and before I go to sleep, I saw myself as a good dancer. And so I saw myself just killing it on the floor. I saw me, I remembered all my moves. And so there were 2 questions that you always want to ask around visualization. And so number 1, I said, okay, how would it feel? How would it feel? Because you really can't manifest without emotion. That's the subconscious only knows emotion. Your heart only knows emotion, doesn't know language. So how?
In MLMs, manifestation is a big thing. I've talked about this before. Manifestation, if it's something that you can control, is a lovely thing. Like, I'm going to do well in my new job. I'm going to kill this work presentation. It's going to be great. But if you're trying to manifest success in a multi-level marketing company, unfortunately, that is not within your control. You will only find success, again, if you recruit hundreds of people who also recruit hundreds of people, and so on and so on and so on. And you can't control your success in multi-level marketing, unfortunately. And manifestation is just a way of reverting the blame back to the individual who's not able to find financial success. Because if they're not making money and they go to their upline, they'll say, well, you're just not manifesting your success enough. If you don't have a good enough mindset, it's your fault. Go back and listen to freaking Tony Robbins again, or Gary Vaynerchuk, and like work on your mind, and then you'll find success. Right. And so it's just a way to blame the victim of the MLM business structure instead of the actual business structure itself.
How would it feel? How would it feel if that was me, if I was really good on the dance floor? And I'm like, oh man, that feel good. I feel confident. I feel nice. Like, man, I would be in my groove. I'd feel awesome. And then I asked myself, how would I know it's true? And so I'm like, okay, well, if it was true, then people would be giving me compliments. What would they say? And so I saw my dance instructor say, wow, impressive. Like, this is all in my mind, guys. And so next I saw the dance studio owner, Irina, who's from Russia. I saw her say, very much improved, which is about the best compliment you'll ever get from her. I go into the dance lessons, and I believe it was 3 or 4 days later, I do something for Irina, a salsa move, and she looks and she goes, very much improved. verbatim, right? Did you get goosebumps there? I mean, verbatim. Now, she had never said anything like this to me before. I do another, I don't remember what I did for Victoria, and she goes, wow, impressive. Verbatim. Same, exact same. And so why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this.
Right. It could have just been that you were working on it for months and maybe you just like overcame a hurdle and you were finally able to get a move that you've been working on for a long time, right? Like you were working on it for a long time. You put in lots of effort and then you improved. That's happened before when I was a kid playing hockey. I was at like a skills camp and I could not figure out this one move, right? And day after day for the couple weeks I was there, I just could not do it. Then on the last day I could do it because like if you keep trying, if you keep repeating the action, eventually you're going to get it, right?
Because you can create a new reality and you are a co-creator. So the things that you feel and the emotions you hold on to most, you're going to experience those things. So what does that have to do with you? I want you to see your spouse applauding you. See your spouse saying words of gratitude. See your spouse saying things to you that would just light your fire, that would just get you excited, that would get you fired up. And ask yourself the two questions. So create a statement or a question or something. Create something specific, a specific phrase. You know, hey, babe, looking good. Hey, you know what? I'm so proud of you. Create some phrase that's meaningful to you. And in your mind, ask yourself, how would it feel if they said this? And number two, how would I know it's true? And see them in your mind saying that. By the way, just to fast forward, a few months ago, my wife and I placed first place in 2 different dances at a very large competition in our division in Miami. And my instructor...
That's because you worked at it, Ray. Like, you didn't just magically wake up and you could dance. Like, you practiced for months. I'm not surprised that you won a competition.
Told me, they're like, you know, there was this one day you weren't really getting very good, Ray. You weren't really improving much. And then one day you're just like, whoa, and like a hockey stick. You can do that in your life. Start to see things as you really want them to be. Feel it. How would you know it's true? And you follow that instruction, you're going to change your life. So would you like some...
So what do you think about that whole mindset story? I think there's always such a big focus on mindset in MLM. Of course, he's not going to sit there and say, oh, your spouse is questioning you being in the MLM business. Why don't you think critically about what they're saying? Do your own research, talk to a friend who has been in an MLM before, write a pro and cons list, and make a well-informed decision based on the analysis of the data that you collected. Of course, they're not going to say that because in the MLM industry in general, there's a big focus on controlling what kind of information people have access to. And people like Ray Higdon or people on the top of Beachbody do not want members of their downline seeking out alternative sources of information. They definitely wouldn't want them seeing Deanna Mims or Jessica on Respectfully Sarcastic or like Gracious Expectations. You should check her out if you haven't seen her yet. She's awesome. Lots of Beachbody videos. You don't want to see content based on facts and that have the goal of educating people on the harms of multi-level marketing businesses, because then that would make distributors start to question the information they're receiving from their upline and start to potentially develop the cognitive dissonance where somewhere in the pit of their stomach, they're thinking, oh, this feels weird, this feels off, but I'm not exactly sure what it is. But they just continue to listen to their upline and do what their upline tells them to do. That was a bit of a ramble, but what do you think about that? And of course, he's not going to say, just think critically and make a well-informed decision. No, he's going to give us a very airy-fairy theoretical mindset hack to do that is most likely really not going to make a difference in our lives, because if we're sitting there visualizing our spouse supporting us when they have really significant reasons to be worried about me being in an MLM, that's not going to change it. The only thing that's going to help the situation is an open and honest conversation, not visualization that your spouse is magically over all of their fears about MLM and how it's affecting you. and how it's affecting you as a person, as a spouse, as a parent, as a friend, etc. What do you think about that? So that's all I have for today. I hope you liked it, and I'll see you next time. Bye.